not the next one, but one of my stories is basically talking about very similarly life coach, uh, life coach vibes.
Oh, perfect. Well, and I will say this today, what we're going to talk about isn't so much about that aspect, but definitely this aspect of it's very easy to influence people, especially if there's enough noise, and if everyone's shouting the same thing, it becomes very influential. And then you can do a lot with people that suddenly believe that everything that you do is correct and true. So, with that sort of ambiguous lead in, we're going to talk about two things today, but all
Okay.
ultimately one thing. This started as only a conversation about Ed and Lorraine Warren. And then it evolved into actually, let's talk about Ed and Lorraine Warren and cover one of what I believe could have been their most dangerous case legally, not physically.
Okay.
Because if it had gone to plan, I think it could have changed our entire legal system, which is pretty incredible to think about. So,
Oh my God.
and I
Okay,
didn't
I'm
want to
ready.
split this into two parts. So just listener, viewer, beware, this might be a long one because I kept thinking, well, we could just do it as the Warrens and then we can do the case because that's what I was going to do first. And then I was like, no, I want to talk about all of it and smush it all together because I am having too much fun doing it that way.
Hmm.
Without further ado, let's chat about them.
I would love to. I'm so excited.
Not a lot of potentially activating topics for today, but I'll just give a couple. Possession, grooming allegations, very general, no details, and then murder, but not very graphic. And Jeri will be surprised with all of that.
Yeah. Our intention is to bring understanding, openness, and curiosity, not sensationalism. Listener discretion is advised.
So, when I was trying to think about our take on an alter ego, I immediately thought about the Warrens, especially because the late Ed Warren, I'm not sure if you're hip to this, did recently have some scandal come out that threatened to tarnish his reputation. But is it rumor? Is it true? Are they true? They are, for spooky nerds like me, a pretty household name, I'll be honest. Even before The Conjuring, I knew all about them. Well, except for some of this later stuff. Their legacy comes with a lot of controversy, and you'll see
Mm-hmm.
as we go through this, I think I probably mentioned, but they're like very, very much two firm camps. There's either those that are like, they're totally real and everything they did was amazing and incredible. And then there's the group that's like, it's all bull. I am in the middle of that camp of like, statistically, I think that they couldn't have been wrong across the board,
Mm-hmm.
but I do have some concerns with how, well, you'll see. so we're first going to talk about the Warrens' beginnings, their rise to fame, and of course, the dark allegations that have risen. But then we're also going to cover a case that I've been really excited to talk about on this specific podcast because I think it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I am going to start with kind of a timeline because their Nesper website laid it out in a really cute way. So props to whoever is doing their site, I will say, whether you like them or not. It's nicely done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so together, they claimed to have investigated over 10,000 paranormal cases. Yeah, it's a lot.
How many
Uh,
years have they been doing this up to?
we'll talk about that, but they did it
Okay.
for quite a long time. But it, the the dynamic was that Ed provided the demonological framework, which we'll talk about, and then Lorraine acted as a psychic medium. And like I said, I knew about them and I was pretty into, their cases and stuff before the Conjuring universe happened. But there were some things that not until probably when I was making these notes, I didn't really think to look into, especially as
Mm-hmm.
far as was Lorraine always a psychic medium or did that not happen until she met Ed? And if so,
Mm.
that seems kind of bizarre. So let's get into kind of a timeline and an order of events.
Can I just say, I haven't said this yet, and I feel like I just have to. I am so excited about this. I have always wanted to know more about them, about their
Perfect.
story, about what's
Perfect.
going on, about what they've been involved in, because
You'll know it all.
obviously it's so all encapsulating. Like it
And
just
there
feel
are parts
it's
of this too that I think you're really gonna be drawn to because I didn't realize
okay.
that he was an art student.
Uh,
Uh-huh,
what?
we're gonna talk about it. Okay, so let's kick it off with the obvious. Who are Ed and Lorraine Warren?
Mhm.
They met when she was 16 and he was 17 in 1944. Ed was an usher at the Colonial Theater in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and Lorraine and her mom were regulars, but on this occasion, Lorraine was actually with a couple of her girlfriends. And one of her friends knew Ed and kind of had this idea that, oh, you guys might have a little sparky spark. I think you guys should meet.
Cute.
But Lorraine, very much a girl after my own heart, was just like not interested in dating. She was living her life, as my child says, and she I love this. I think this is, like, depending on how jaded you are as a human being and how, like, macabre you are, this could be kind of a disturbing statement, but I think I get where she's coming from. She seemed to think that only her brother was capable of being a gentle guy, and all other men were too rough,
Right.
so she was more interested in her schoolwork, and I will be honest that I first read that and was like, "Ew," and then I was like,
Mhm.
Okay, no, like, I get it, like, only my dear brother is a good man, all other men are filth," right? Like, and
Yeah.
I would think we've all felt that way. That's how I feel about
Mhm.
my kid, right? I'm like,
Mhm.
"He's the only good boy in the world."
The only one, all the rest of them are trash.
Yes. So even so, she did think Ed was cute, and he smelled like Noxema. That's so
What?
funny. Smell is so but I mean, smell is like the main memory,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
but this apparently worked because oh, sorry. This apparently was because he actually worked as a lifeguard during the day, and so he used a shit ton of Noxema after shifts to kinda soothe his, like, burnt skin.
My
So,
god.
it made sense why he smelled so strongly of it, but also, I think that's kind of attractive too, right? Of like, "Oh, you're saving people, and you're burning your skin, and of course you're lathered in Noxema, and now that smell will make me think of how brave you are."
Especially back in the day, I would imagine it
In
was even more
44?
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably romanticize eras we weren't a part of, but
Do you think
god,
people
it's
now are
so
like,
good.
"Well, when I met my husband, we were 16 and he smelled like Axe body spray."
Yes, I do think that. That's probably exactly what the
Mm.
equivalent of today's
And it really did
Noxema
work.
would be.
So funny. Well,
God,
between
that's
the memorable
hilarious.
scent and the appearance, she was a little bit more interested than she expected. Love will find you when you least expect. And he had Riz, okay, as the kids say, because he offered to walk the three girls home, bought them all a Coke at the local soda fountain. And I like Lorraine's style because she obviously could sense, right, that, all right, he's kind of into me.
Uh-huh.
Maybe a door is maybe open. So when he offered to buy the girls a Coke, which would have been like 5 cents, she goes up and she orders a Coke float. Mhm. An ice cream soda, if you
Which
will.
is which
A
is
dime.
arguably more
It was a
yeah.
dime.
Ooh, it's double, okay.
Double. So, yeah, so she ordered that literally on his dime because it did cost 10 cents. So,
Mhm.
I love that for her. I think it's really funny to be like, "Thank you, that's so generous. I want the most expensive thing on the menu." So, he was fine with it. I'm sure he's making big lifeguard money, right? So, he walked the
Mhm.
girls home, but Lorraine's house, this is so funny to me. It's such a different world just this many years later. Lorraine's house was the last on the route, and she felt like, "Oh, this will not be appropriate for him to walk me alone all the way to my house." So, uh, again, not because it now she would think it was inappropriate, right? Because now she
Mhm.
would be like, "I'm not walking alone to my house," right? Like, "This is 2026, so you'll never see me again." Uh, of course, then it was like, "No, that's so not okay." So
Yeah.
she told him this and insisted on walking solo, and like a gentleman, he totally understood. He was like, "Yes, got it. No follow-up questions." So he ran across the street to his own house, and she said, quote, "When he ran across the street, I didn't see the slender young man of 16. I physically saw Ed as a grown man. A man that I would marry. In fact, when I returned home that evening, I wrote in my diary, 'Today, I met the man I'm going to marry.'"
Oh my god. Wow. Whew, thank God I didn't marry the man that I was with at 16. Good God.
Uh,
But I can't imagine what
that's
that would
another thing I
do.
think about a lot. I'm like, don't get me wrong. I will say, like, he's doing very well for himself. I think it's great, but I'm no. Your brain is not it's not developed, you guys.
No, it's, like, really far from being
It's
developed.
still
But
kind
that's
of a
so
baby
sweet that
brain.
they met at that age, and, like, that is one of those things where it's like, "Oh gosh," like, that young love is, like,
Mhm.
so unique to that time and that era, and it also is just never like, you never really feel that way again whenever you're older, like, that teen young
Just
love,
high on
that's
a
so
Coke
sweet.
float, like, in
Yeah.
love.
Thinking that you're gonna
Well,
marry the man. That's so
yeah,
sweet,
and
I
I feel
love
like
that.
I've heard that so many times too, where someone's like, "And I told my friends, I'm gonna marry him or I'm gonna marry her."
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't know, I kind of want that love to find me, I think, but then I
Mhm.
also am again, it comes down to, like, how jaded are you? Because now I think, well, I don't know, because really, if psychologically speaking, if someone were to make you feel that intense, that's probably actually, like, a fight or flight thing, and la, 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 la. So, I think this is why I don't know that I'll ever date again. I'm just like, "Oh, you're kind? What's wrong? What's happening in my body?" It's too much. Um
I put on my, list of things that are I would like to bring in this year and kind of I don't wanna say goals, but, not start a relationship is literally the top priority,
We're the
so
opposite because 'cause I'm over here so most of, because 'cause you're not gonna be able to come, but most of my favorite people are actually gonna come for my birthday this year because
Mhm.
last year I was alone, it was depressing, it's a whole thing, we're not gonna get into it.
Yeah.
But I was like, "Oh, this is so wonderful," and I'm, like, making a note of everyone that's coming, and I was like, "So and so and partners, so and so and partners, so and so and partners, so and so." Oh. I'm like, "Can't wait to celebrate my birthday as the only single person in the
Person in the
entire
room.
group." But then I was like, "No, that's fine. Like, it's fine. It'll be
Mhm.
fine, it'll be fun, and I'll just make everybody buy me drinks when we're out and be like, 'Anybody want to audition to be the love of my life?'" It'll be
"Anybody
great.
wanna be over here at this spot? It's
Yeah.
open."
"Look at me, my smile lines are filled. I'm so fresh and young." Oh my god, but anyway.
Oh my god.
So the following year, 1945, Ed enlists in the
Mhm.
Navy and was deployed for just 4 months before his ship was sunk in the North Atlantic. Womp womp.
Uh-oh.
He obviously survived. I do, I do have to have like a quick little anecdote here. Because I wrote that sort of tongue in cheek of like, obviously he survived, but then I had to laugh because my late father was a Vietnam veteran. He was in the Marine Corps.
Mhm.
And I can remember being in kindergarten. I think it was that young. This is like one of my earlier memories, earliest. And I told someone that, like, yeah, my dad was in a war. None of us really understood what that meant, but we understood at that point that like some people don't come back from that.
Yeah.
And I remember I maybe it was first grade, but still we were little kids. And I I even had this concept, right, of like Vietnam War was a while ago.
Mhm.
And this boy that I'm talking to looks at me and goes, "Did he survive?" Yeah, dude. I'm literally here talking to you.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
a 40-year-old first grader.
yeah. He lived, and that's how I'm here.
Yes,
That's
I hope you don't have any more follow-up questions,
that's
but
actually
anyway.
hilarious.
Oh my god. So when Ed comes back, he returns stateside for a 30-day survivor's leave. And as near death tends to do, it brought him and Lorraine very close because while he was on this
Mhm.
30-day leave, they got married. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
It's
Okay.
been a
Okay.
year. I mean, in the 40s, that's like we've seen The
That's
Notebook.
like 6 years
That's like
in
dog
the
years. That's like
40s.
7 years. Yeah.
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
So in
So true.
1951, by 1951, at this point, they've been married for 6 years, and the couple welcomed their daughter, Judy, who fans of the Conjuring universe will recognize.
Mm.
She is, in fact, a real human child. And while Lorraine is being like the classic 50s mom, Ed decides, this is so funny. I read this and was like, okay. Ed decides that this newborn baby phase is the best time to gain a hobby and get out of the house. So this is when he goes to art school. The way that I would be so mad. I'm like, yeah. You should definitely leave me. I'll just take care of this newborn solo and also keep the house clean and make you a
I'd be
pot roast.
fucking pissed. Yeah.
But
To go to
listen,
art school?
it maybe it was beautiful for them. This was a different time, whatever. Maybe she had a lot of uppers and everything was cool.
She definitely had some Valium.
So he loved painting, especially, do you want to guess what his favorite thing to paint was?
Some sort of, like, surrealism.
Haunted houses.
Oh. Oh.
Uh-huh.
Wait, I
Haunted
didn't think it'd
houses.
be that on the nose.
Oh, that on the nose. Oh, big, you have no idea. Haunted houses and generally spooky stuff, and this was primarily all he did. And I'm curious, as someone who went to art school like you, I is that environment typically pretty welcoming of being like, "Hey, I'm just gonna paint this one thing."
No,
Okay.
not in the slightest.
Okay.
Literally no.
That's what I thought. Well, but I guess that's, like, all he did. Um, and I have a feeling that he probably was also treated that way because after 2 years, he dropped out. But he likely had an abundance of paintings and was still painting at that point, so he and Lorraine are like, "What are we gonna do with all these paintings?" So, they decided to set up a little road trip, and at all these, like, roadside stands, they saw they would sell his paintings.
Okay.
You know what? Let me send you.
I was about to say, can I see one of his paintings?
Yes, I'll send you, the one that comes up, I think, the most, which first I was like, it's a little Bob Ross," and then I was like, "Well, I don't know, it's kinda cool." Okay, I think it's sending you, like, the entire Google result, sorry, but look at that. I'll send you a couple that are actually, like, the image. Da, da, da,
This is a
da.
painting?
Yes, I'll send you 2.
Oh, that makes sense because of the movies. Oh, yeah.
I love that first. Alright, so Jerry's initial critique is, "This is paint?"
It looks like oil pastel, to be honest.
Yeah, it looks like those little, I was gonna call them crayons, but you know what I'm talking about.
That's what yeah, exactly. It definitely
Yeah.
looks like oils. Maybe it's oil paint. This is not good. Sorry. I mean, it is.
Here's what it reminds me of,
It
and
is,
you
but
can well, here's my I'm not an artist, surprise, surprise, but let me tell you
you
what
first of all, don't make me go to the dirt about this that you are an artist.
well, let me explain from a
Don't
not
let me hear
classically
that
trained
bullshit.
artist. How about that? I'm not a
Whatever.
classically trained artist. So here's what my first thought when I looked at it, because
Yes.
a million years ago, I did take art lessons with my mom. I took like painting classes.
Huh?
And this reminds me very much not of something I would have done in a real supervised class. It reminds me of like a paint and sip.
That is exactly I'm right there with you. And
It
I'm
has that energy of like, I'm showing you
mhm.
the example. We're going to
Yeah.
do it together. No pressure. Have fun. And everyone holds it up at the end. Like it's that.
Yeah. Is this like one of his first pieces? Is that what this
Uh, listen, the way it reads is that he was kind of just pumping these out like crazy. So I don't know where it falls
maybe
in the
that too
timeline.
is like if it's a quick I mean, he did this really quickly, and if it's just like a study of that's yes, it feels like, oh, this is a study of this house kind of energy.
Well, perfect that you say that because we're going to touch more on some of the inspiration shortly. But something, so what you're looking at, the first one I sent you is very clearly like a ghostly house on a hill. It does look like
Mhm.
there's a waterfall in their front yard, which is confusing. I don't think that's
Mhm.
a waterfall, but anyway, but there's like a little ghost in the graveyard. There's some bats in the sky. It's very on the nose. There's a full moon. But this is,
Ghosty in the
again,
window.
yeah, I think, that's, like, the tallest
Mhm.
sheet ghost I've ever seen, it's like Slender Man's ghost, um, but, again, this is his primary thing, this is what he loves to create, and so I assumed that Lorraine was probably right there with him of like, "Ooh, yeah, I love ghosts," you know, like, that's how I would be if I was
Mhm.
someone's partner
Mhm.
because I do,
I'm that
but
way, but
she
yeah, I can be that way arguably without a partner.
well, but she was actually a skeptic at the time. Lorraine did not believe in any
Oh,
of this.
okay.
Um, but Ed was pretty passionate about the supernatural. So really, I mean, she is just a supportive wife. I mean, she's like, "Yes, we will take the baby on the road and we'll sell these paintings that you have of haunted places." Like she was
Hmm.
now, this is where I first again, my my horse ears perked up and I was like, "Wait, wait, 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 wait. She's a skeptic, but isn't she a medium?" And
That's
so
exactly
that's when
what I
I
was
started
thinking.
to go like, "When did she first have an experience?" So their official website says that she's like a total skeptic at this point. That's source number 1. Now, other sites say that she actually had her first paranormal experience around age 9. So I do want to be clear that there are conflicting reports here. Um, I would be more keen to believe their official website because like their children
That's
manage
what they're
it.
co-signing on, yeah.
Yeah, I but I will say she did seem to think everyone possessed the same ability that she later became famous for. And I have that belief too. And you and I have talked about this already
Yeah.
on the podcast of like different parts of your brain. My math door is closed, my spooky door is open, you know, like
Mhm,
everyone's
mhm,
whatever.
mhm.
But just an interesting note because again, I just thought, but the next year, Ed really made it her hobby too, because that was when they co-founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, or NESPR, which is what I've been talking about from
Right.
the RIP, which is now one of the oldest ghost hunting groups in New England.
That's fun.
Now, you said just now that it's like, oh, okay, it's like a quick study of this as a house. And
Mhm.
probably part of why it feels that way is because they were able to research a ton of houses, but do you know how he gained entry into those houses?
How?
He would drive to haunted locations and sketch them before attempting to interview the owners about the haunting. So he would knock on the door and be like, I painted your home. Can I come in?
Oh, that's actually kinda genius.
Is it? Because I'm going
It's
to tell you,
creepy, it's creepy.
if someone knocked on my door and was like, hi, I just drew your house, I that would not work. I would be like,
No.
great, thank you so much. Stay right there. I'm calling the
That
police.
would be even more grounds to say, "No, you can't come in."
Yeah.
I'd be
Like,
more
okay, so
open
you've
to
cased
welcome.
it from the outside and drawn a blueprint of it. But see, again, this is what's wrong with me.
I don't
Everything's
think that I
bad.
don't I don't know, I think that erring on the side of caution is probably warranted.
Well, through doing this, obviously, they really built their reputation. And with that, again, like I said at the top, over 10,000 cases were investigated. So I'm going to do like a quick sort of timeline of some of the biggest hitters here. So Annabelle, of
We know
course,
her.
shout out to the OG 68. And this was really their first huge case. And just as a
Mhm.
reminder for anyone who doesn't know, Annabelle is just a Raggedy Ann doll.
Yeah.
I don't know why they opted to make her look like a demonic doll that no one would have ever purchased in the movie, but she was
Mhm.
just a Raggedy Ann doll. So two roommates claimed that a Raggedy Ann doll was possessed. The Warrens took possession of the doll, played it in their occult museum. Obviously, I'm skipping some stuff in the middle. Whatever. 3 years later, or a few years later, in 1971, they investigated the Perrin family, and that's the case that would inspire the first Conjuring movie,
Perrin
the
family.
parents.
Okay.
And the lowdown here was that the Rhode Island Perrin family alleged that a witch's curse in their home was causing all of this trouble. And of course, that was the first Conjuring.
Mhm.
Next up, we've got the Amityville Horror House in 1974, one of their most infamous cases because the Lutz family claimed that their home was terrorized by demons. Dix,
Mhm.
of course, called this haunting a hoax. The Warrens validated that it was real. I don't know. Then there was the Enfield poltergeist. This was a British family that had an alleged haunting. The Warrens showed up uninvited. I wonder if Ed was like, I painted your house on the airplane. But they showed up uninvited and were told to leave.
Yep,
Um,
there you go. There are your
yeah,
people.
they are my people. They're like, we'll
Mhm.
deal with the ghost on our own. Please leave.
Yep.
Uh,
Mm-mm.
Independent investigators said that their involvement was exaggerated. So interesting because this, I think, is also kind of a key part in one of the films, if I remember correctly, unless there's just another movie about it. Maybe there's just another movie about it. But regardless, it's like part of their kind of canon, but it sounds like they actually really weren't. They wanted to be involved. I don't think they really
Wow.
are.
It's been so long since I've seen the movies, now I'm like, "Ooh, I kinda wanna go back and watch." Yeah.
The first one really holds up. They go a little bit downhill from there. The most
Mhm.
recent one was trash.
Oh, no.
It had such opportunity to be, like, really good. It was trash.
It's crazy how things a lot of film has gone. Just l the
I know.
quality is lessened.
Well, and since I've already spilled that I live in Wilmington, the, house that they filmed for the first Conjuring movie is actually, like, 20 minutes down the road.
Oh, no way, I didn't
Yeah,
know
most of that
that.
was filmed here.
Oh, that's cool.
So, in the 80s, they investigated the Smurl home, claiming multiple spirits and a demon, and this was later adapted into The Conjuring: Last Rites, which is the one that was total garbage. Um,
Unfortunate.
yeah, like, give it a watch, let me know, but
Yeah.
it was a bummer.
Mhm.
So, in their personal life, their daughter Judy met her now husband in 1979, so sort of like amidst this. And I first, when I was making these notes, that was just gonna be a blip in the timeline, right? Of
Mhm.
like, Judy gets married, let's move on. I had to actually stop here and like, we have to talk about this story because this
Okay.
is bananas. I'm gonna tell you how they met, and I would just like your feedback.
Okay.
He was a cop and wait, Jerry, he was a cop, saw her in a car, and, she kinda like looked at him, he looked at her.
He
He
looked at
chased
him.
her down. to a mall, sirens on, and he was spotted, and she seems to run because, of course, she's like, "I'm sorry, excuse me? Why is this man chasing me?" His friend later called him and linked the 2 of them up, and because apparently when she first saw him driving, she smiled because she thought that it was a friend of hers who was also a cop that she knew, and when she realized, "Well, that's not George," whatever, she was like, "Oh, never mind," and went about her day, and so when she noticed that he pulled into the mall behind her, she just thought it was a coincidence and was sorta like, "Ugh, whatever," and so, when then she realized it was someone else, whatever, so they wound up going out and I guess falling in love, but
I'm assuming that this scared her that he, like, chased her, followed her, or what did she know that he followed her?
yes, she did, and again, it was like, "Oh, it's my friend," and then when she realized it wasn't, like, inside the store that she had gone into, she was like, "Never mind, it's not my friend," and so she didn't really understand why he would have been, like, trying to get her attention. And I guess she told her friend that knew both of them. And he was like, "Oh, no," that because he literally started telling his friends, like, "I saw this woman today, and I just have to know who she is, and I just have to ask her on a date. She was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." And, like, listen, again, that's the sort of stuff that might work, like, in a Hallmark rom-com where you know that nobody's a serial killer. But in real life, if someone is like, "I must know you,"
And
eh.
you know what? I am real first, let me preface this by saying I know what the I get it. I'm leaning into this knowingly with this statement. It depends on how hot they are.
Not for me. I think actually the hotter you are, the
I
worse it is. 'Cause then I'm
n
like, "No, why do you need to be chasing me down?"
I'm the wrong person to talk to about this because I definitely have a predator and prey thing, and if you're hot and you're,
Oh
like,
god.
following me, I'm like,
Right.
I guess I shouldn't call that in."
No.
I don't I'm not just let me preface this by saying there has to be safety first with those kinds of things.
Consent. Oh,
Obviously,
you have
consistent.
to ask permission to turn your lights on
CNC
and
is
follow me down.
real. Yeah, also not a cop
Not a
that's
cop
been
fan.
down that
Well,
no,
I was gonna
mm-mm,
say, but you have.
no, we're not.
Ew.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Oh, man. Um, yeah, but that whole I was just like, "Ew, okay." But whatever, it worked out great for them, and they're still, like, madly in love, so cool.
The fence about this. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it depends. It depends on a lot of things, but can I just blanket statement say it's never okay to follow somebody?"
Let's go with that.
Let's go with that.
I'm like,
Mhm.
if he wasn't a cop, if he was just somebody following you and, like, aggressively trying to find what store you went into, again, you don't know anybody or
I
what they
love
might
how
pull out
you
of
and
their
I are
purse.
totally I'm like, I want him
No,
to
I'm
follow
over
me in
here like,
person.
this man could have accidentally gotten himself killed, and you're over here
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
"It's kinda cute, like, I kinda
It's
get
just
it."
like, "Oh, you just can't live without me? You have to follow me to the store that I'm going into? Oh my
It's
god.
fun.
No, but really, actually, it could be a huge problem. I should really see that too."
Yeah. Okay, we'll handle that off air. So so Tony is now the director of the Warren Museum and still investigating demonic activity today. I have seen
Today,
him
to
on
this
some
day.
different programs, including
Programs.
Ghost Adventures,
Oh,
uh,
fun.
which
Okay.
listen, I know I've brought up this show before. It is garbage, and
But it's
I
good
accepted it. It's
garbage.
camp, you guys. Ghost Adventures is camp.
Yes.
And my 4-year-old loves it, and when the intro comes on, my child repeats, "There are things in this world we may never understand." Understand, and it's really funny, and we have a good time, and I got a projector for Christmas and like a, screen, and so now we watch Ghost Adventures at night
Fun.
on
Oh
the
my
big screen.
god. Yay.
But anyway, I accept that it is camp and it is silly, and
Mhm.
poor Zacky Poo really needs some attention. But I have seen him even on that show. I mean, he definitely, like, makes the rounds. So, again, I'm assuming that Judy and Tony are probably the ones upkeeping the Nesper site, and like I said, the site's really well done. I encourage anyone who's, like, remotely interested, do check it out because what I thought was really amazing is that they actually have tons of case files with details and images, like,
Ooh,
all
that's
separated
super
out.
fun.
Really, really nicely done. It's such an easy kind of wormhole to go through, which is like, who doesn't like that?
Mhm.
So one of the cases I skipped over in the timeline occurred in 1981, and this was the trial of Arnie Cheyenne Johnson. And this is the notorious case of "The Devil Made Me Do It." Are you familiar?
Ooh. Ooh, I know just enough to know what you're talking about, but no further than that.
Okay, so let's get into it. In 1981, they tried to argue that demonic possession drove a man to kill his landlord. Absolutely unprecedented legal defense. This was also one of the Conjuring movies. So if some of you were like, ooh, this does feel familiar, that's why. But
Mhm.
there are plenty of things obviously left out. So we're going to get into that. I think I read that it was the least successful Conjuring film.
Well, I was gonna ask do you know what the name of it is? Which this one?
The devil made me do it.
Oh, it is okay.
Mhm. But it's interesting because I feel like this story actually is such great movie fodder, so, like, I don't blame them for making it a film, but I am surprised it
Mhm.
wasn't, like, better received because it really did happen. It's interesting. So, this case would also really put the Warrens in the spotlight in a way they have never been before because international press was all over this.
Wow.
So, at one point, Lorraine was actually quoted as saying to a reporter, "Oh my god, hun, we've been inundated. It's been chaos, total chaos," because they were just getting call after call after call of people being like, "I have a ghost too." Like,
Yeah.
they got a lot of attention. So, we'll set the scene. We're in Brookfield, Connecticut,
What
and
year is it?
1981.
Okay.
Well, 1981 is when this case happened, so we're in, like, well, I think it all happened within a year, so I think it's 1981.
Okay.
So, Arnie Cheyenne Johnson, known by his friends as Cheyenne, but I'm not his friend, so I'm gonna call him Arnie, was dating Debbie Glatzel, and they would later marry. Apropos of nothing, perhaps, but I wanna point out that Debbie was 27 when this all started. Arnie was 20. That's okay, but the 2 of them met when Arnie was 12.
Oh, which means she was 19?
Meaning she was 19.
Was she the babysitter?
Debbie became no, they met at a supermarket, like, by chance, and so Debbie becomes really good friends with his mom,
Well, yeah, because
and
that's more appropriate than her being friends with a 12-year-old.
okay, you hear what I'm thinking too, and so the 2 of them would literally go on picnics and take the kids, him being one of the kids, to the beach, and when Arnie was 16, he asked
Mm.
her out, and she accepted, and they fell in love. Anyway, just gonna throw that out there.
So she's in her 20s and he's 16 when they go on their
Mhm.
first, like, date. That's
Yeah.
really
Yep, yep,
fucking
yep, yep,
weird.
yep, yep.
We don't talk enough about I
Women being predators?
look, I just had a friend my oh, you know Madison. I was with Madison the other day shopping. She's my
Yeah.
neighbor.
She's not a predator.
She's not a predator. Let me clarify. She actually is an attorney. We were having the conversation of I said that we're not really ready as a society yet, and being a therapist, I have a weird window into just him. When I tell you floored, and I feel like I've said this to you before, how many women are predators? Like we're not in a societally in a place where like, it's not evolved enough for us to have this conversation yet, I don't think, in a safe way of there are very many women that are predators, and we really have
Mhm.
to get away from the gendered. It needs to
Yeah.
be more about actions and impact and trauma
Yes.
and behavior instead of gendered, but again, we're not. Anyway, patriarchy hurts everyone, and in that same vein is like, hey, we need to acknowledge how many women are predators out here because it is
Agreed.
really pervasive, but
Agreed. And so listen, I'm not calling her a
I
predator.
guess we just need to clarify that's
These people are absolutely alive, and I know they're not listening to this podcast, but I just want to be
sure.
really clear. But
That's
I
not
am
what we're
just
saying.
pointing out that I read
It's
that
weird. It is weird.
and I was like, I know that I don't know how to do math, but I know what icky is. So anyway,
Yeah.
um, at this point, they're in love, whatever, and all of them are basically living with Debbie's family. There are some sources that say Arnie wasn't there officially, just visited a lot, but it seems
Mhm.
to me like he lived there. And because of that, and because eventually they actually did go on to marry, it gets confusing to read some of this because they'll refer to David, who we're about to talk about, as Arnie's brother. But David, 11 years old at this point, is in fact Debbie's brother. It doesn't really matter, but I
Right.
wanted to clarify because it was confusing to me.
Okay.
So, David, 11, begins to see and experience things that he and his family deemed as supernatural in their rental home that Debbie and Arnie had really like just acquired. And it was supposed to be kind of a dream home. Again, it was her family's, but I think she and Arnie found it together, so it kind of felt
Mm.
like a joint project.
Mhm.
And it was this little house in the country with olive green shutters contrasting the yellow exterior. It was far back in the woods, which is my dream, and it was on Old Holliesville Road near Brookfield, which is where more of Debbie's family lived.
Okay.
There was a waterbed that was left behind by the previous tenants, and
Oh my
everyone
god,
but
throwback.
yes, I got this email the other day. It was like some sort of like clickbait that I actually meant to follow up on. That was like, what happened to waterbeds? Like, where did they all go? Like, how do you
Mhm.
dispose of a waterbed? And I
Mhm.
really need to remember to look into that because I'm like, yeah, how do
Where
people
did
like, do
they
you have
all
to drain
go?
it and throw it away?
Yeah, I'm
I don't know.
sure.
Probably, right? Because
My
they're
parents had one
heavy.
in the 90s, yeah.
I wanted one. I wanted one so bad.
I cannot
Um,
imagine sharing a waterbed with a partner and being like, "Kids, will you stop fucking
be
moving?" I'd be
still.
like roll
My
over in the bed.
God.
Can you imagine? Anyway.
Oh, you need like a lifeboat.
Yeah, exactly.
So but just like you and I would have done, everyone was like jumping on the waterbed. Like everyone had to
Sure.
try it out,
Yeah.
obviously, except for David. David was
Why?
like,
David
"Ooh."
didn't like that idea?
He didn't like anything that might make his tummy feel bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So he was
understand
like,
that.
that's gonna make me queasy. I'm not interested.
Mhm.
So later that day, he's in that room alone and something shoves him onto the bed. And as he's, I'm sure, rocking up and down,
Yeah.
he sees a vision of this old man in a torn plaid shirt and blue jeans with ruddy skin.
Mhm.
And on this first occurrence, the man speaks to him and he says, "Beware."
Oh,
Feels like a little Scooby Doo, but
yeah.
okay. So he says, "Beware." So that's like the
Okay.
one word thing. Um, any thoughts initially on this 11-year-old boy seeing an image of a man? Fine if not.
No, not yet. I think it's interesting. And also, like, did anybody else feel or see or think that things were weird, or is it just him?
So I think that's a great question. Hold on to that.
Okay.
Because this is going to go into like a bigger, more psychological question I have for you that I want some
Mm.
input on.
Okay.
I want you to have like a red flag or something, and every time I say something that you're like, oh, oh, that rings my therapy bell, like because there are some things in this that I think you're going to be like, oop.
I'll do that. I'll
So
be like,
later that night, he
mm-hmm.
sees the same man again, but he looks different now. Now his skin looks almost burned, and he's barefoot, which allows him to observe that he has feet like a deer. And that made me think about my fox sisters, talking
Mm-hmm.
about Mr. Splitfoot. But also, it's
Mm-hmm.
not that unusual, right? If we're talking about something demonic, like you're gonna give it hooves. Um,
Obvious.
you're obviously gonna give it hooves. However,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what what David was into. I don't know if he was
The
into the
content.
supernatural stuff. Right. So it would be much more y- kind of bizarre if he had no sort of interest in any of that and he describes that. That
That's it. Exactly what I was thinking. Is
that would
his
ping something.
even from if we were talking strictly what the brain uses as as far as like, oh, there's so much religious psychosis because your brain uses things that
Yes.
are easily accessible content, right? So if he's absorbing this type of content, that makes sense from
Less
both a
strange.
yeah, exactly. But if he's not, then that changes everything.
I agree, but unfortunately, I
We don't
have a
know.
feeling well, no, we don't know, but I do have a feeling that he may have had some material to build off of
Okay.
because his mom believes it right away. And first of all, 10 points for her because I'm definitely of the
Yes.
camp of like, believe your kid. Listen, even if it winds up
Yes.
being some sort of psychological issue, just believe your child.
Well, too, it's
Um,
like they're experiencing the emotions as it is is real to them.
yes,
So
it
treat it
doesn't
that
matter
way.
if it makes sense to you. Like,
No.
yes. And of course, there's a big asterisk there. I'm not saying like encourage it or whatever. Like, obviously, there's a lot of nuance to what that whole thing is, but
But
believe
believe
your
them.
children.
Yep.
So but she believes him right away because she says not only has she read about the supernatural, but she's even heard the Warrens lecture. So she immediately accepts
Oh,
this
well, then
ghost.
she obviously he's gonna have access
I'm
to some
I'm
stuff because of
thinking.
how welcoming she is to it. Yeah. Okay.
I'm thinking. And because it's the same reason why my kid loves spooky stuff because I
Mhm.
love spooky stuff, right? Like
Mhm.
he's not spooked by ghosts and in fact he'll tell me like I heard footsteps on the stairs and I got up and no one was there and I'm like, "Oh, wow, what do you think it was?" I mean,
Mhm.
whatever, right? But
Mhm.
it's because it's a welcome topic here.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because he's, like, jumping out of his bed and seeing things, mostly because he's always in my bed, so, um, but this man would go on to appear and physically attack him further. So not just pushing him that one time, but also harassing him often in the form of a demonic beast, and they actually started referring to him as the beast,
Oh god.
to the point of extreme night terrors. And when he first told
Uh-oh.
Arnie about this, Arnie, who obviously wasn't listening to the Warrens' lecture about the supernatural, he
Mhm.
actually assumed it was an excuse to just get out of doing chores.
That's so funny.
Is that kind of like a wild take? Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, sorry, I can't clean my room because there's a dead guy in my closet." Like, I don't alright.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
That's
maybe the
really
excuse
funny.
I would use. Um, but it didn't take too long before they do believe him because, to answer your earlier question, the family allegedly did witness some things themselves too. There were noises coming from the attic, squirrels, bruises and scratches that appeared out of nowhere, and it was becoming impossible to ignore David's really bizarre behavior.
Mm.
At one point, Debbie and her mother actually witnessed David being beaten and choked by invisible hands that left him with a very visible red marks on his neck. And David told them that the entity had vowed to hurt the whole family if they stayed in that rental home. So they called in a priest to try to bless the house. But unfortunately, as these things are wont to do, it gets worse. So David starts seeing more things and worse things, and it's like around the clock now. He's also growling, hissing, speaking in strange noises, like strange voices,
Mhm.
and he'll randomly start reciting Bible verses or sections of Paradise Lost. I swear the Paradise Lost thing came up in another story that we
It
did.
did.
I
What
can't
was
remember
it?
what it was.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that's so interesting because I mean, I understand it's like mostly about the fall of man and the temptation in the garden and all of that,
Right.
but like what I don't
Something
what's up?
something it feels like it's something with the psyche that it touches feels absorbable or something.
Yeah.
And it might also just be the culturally at that time, I'm curious,
If it was
you
like being
know.
studied in school,
Mhm, like, if it's more
maybe.
mm.
So the Glatzels started splitting shifts so that someone could stay up with David every night in hopes of protecting him, obviously, but also probably to bear witness. But this
Mhm.
is not like a, all right, Jerry, it's your turn now. This isn't like a calm sort of will rotate because David is violent. His mom says that he attacked her regularly. He spit at her, kicked her, squeezed her in the bust, and he went after his grandmother with a knife.
Oh, fuck.
Hmm. Something that you may remember from Clara's possession is that
Uh-huh.
they also start witnessing David convulsing and spasming.
Mhm, mhm. And then we were like, "Oh, could it potentially be seizures?"
Uh-huh.
Mhm,
Something psychological happening because
mhm.
and if we're not gonna go into psychological and we are gonna go into spiritual, here's where I'm gonna throw another marble out there. This is where I'm thinking he's 11, he's on the cusp of puberty,
Yep.
there's a lot happening here, and
Mhm,
I'm not sure if I think it's demonic, hormonal,
mhm.
or poltergeist.
Yep.
I don't know. So the family contacts Ed and Lorraine. At this point, this whole thing's been going on for about 12 days.
Oh, such a short, acute amount of time.
Yeah, like
Okay.
we ramped up quick. We went from like, I don't
Wow.
want to be on the waterbed to chasing grandma with a knife.
Okay.
So Ed and Lorraine come out, and of course, things start popping off quickly.
Okay.
Lorraine is witnessing a black mist that seems to sort of shroud David. And to her, this is an indication of a malevolent presence. And you remember that his mom thought that it was a ghost. The Warrens do not think that it was a ghost. They say that they knew right away it was different and the spirit was inhuman and evil. And
Mm.
Ed's quoted as saying, right away, I knew there was something to this. I felt like a good fisherman when he knows there's something on the line,
Mm, 'kay.
which I also thought was kind of an interesting, maybe like Freudian way of saying something.
Yeah.
But allegedly, they see a toy dinosaur just walking around on its own. Plates are levitated, rocking chairs are flying through the air, a cake pan floats straight up to the ceiling,
Oh
leaves
my
icing
god.
all over the place, and the beast allegedly calls David's brother and just says, "Beware."
Mm.
I love that this demon can use a landline.
That is so that would lend me to believe that it was a ghost because it's like, obviously, you're a person, you can use the phone, but
Right.
if it's a demon,
But
yeah,
it does also make me wonder why more ghosts aren't texting.
I stay curious about that.
LOL, you up? Like, I'm not.
Not the booty call from the ghost.
The booty call from beyond. That'll be my boyfriend in 2026. Yes, he has been dead for quite some time, but we
Mhm.
really emotionally and spiritually really hit it off.
He sees me, and by that I mean he sees
And I
me.
and I don't see him, but I get him. You know what I mean? I really feel him around me. And let's dip into some religion, shall we? Because,
I was just thinking what I'm missing here is some
well, I got
religion.
it for you, don't you worry, because Judy, David's mom, tells the Washington Post, quote, "If people honestly believe in Jesus Christ our Lord, they have to believe in the devil." She says, "Besides, this world is being controlled by the devil. Look at the drugs, the prostitution, the gambling, and the violence. The devil is in charge of it all."
Obviously is notorious for
And I
those things.
and I'll be honest, I don't necessarily agree with some of her statement,
Mhm.
but I do believe in this duality, right? Of like, if I'm going to believe in
Mhm.
God, then I have to believe in the opposite.
Mhm.
I get that. I think it's a totally fair argument if you're kind of in that realm of thinking. So now, for those in the know, you can't just call the Catholic Church and say, we need a real exorcism. Also, our
Mhm.
audio just started doing something so weird. And I'm like,
Oh,
what's
it didn't,
happening?
not on my end.
Okay, cool. So it's just haunted on my side, and now
Yay.
it's stopping as I called it out.
Great.
Awesome.
Mhm.
It got, like, really, really loud, almost like rain, and now it's
Oh,
not doing anymore, so
okay.
okay. So you can't just call
It's your
the
boyfriend.
Catholic Church. He's always trying to call me. That's so sweet. But he knows I don't like to talk on the phone, so he needs to text me. Because you have to get, like, an actual official exorcism right, it has to be signed off by the Catholic Church, and that's a whole thing, and that's why if you research how many exorcisms the Vatican approves, it's gonna be, like, next to nothing because it's so hard to get them to sign off on such a thing.
It's like an
S
application process.
It's a whole ordeal, and
Mhm.
so when I'm saying next that he does go through a few small exorcisms, I'm talking like DIY exorcisms. Like
Okay.
Ed and some local priests are gonna do some like
Okay.
petite exorcisms, if you will. We're not in like a full rite.
This is reminding me of I have to tell you the story, not today, but just for as a teaser, the DIY exorcism that happened that I witnessed in college.
Is that your college demon story?
Yes.
Oh my god, can we please talk about it next time?
I have 2. I have 2 of them
That's
from
I think at
freshman year,
least one
before
too
we were
many.
even yeah, before we had even met, I think, at this point. I had 2 demonic possessions stories in my but I've seen a DIY attempt at an exorcism, which is hysterical given the situation. I'm sure it was nothing like what you're talking about, but weirdly enough,
I
I
don't
have been
know.
part of a DIY exorcism.
I don't know because again, everything that Ed knew about demonology, he was
Mhm.
self-taught. All of it.
Okay.
And I mean,
Right,
I think
okay.
that that's totally fine if it's like an instrument. If you're like, "Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
self-taught on the guitar, now I'm really good." But it just seems like
But
with
maybe
something
my
like demons though I don't know, I mean, you can't major in it in college, so what do I know?
Mm-mm.
But it just I don't know. It seems like you should have some sort of mentor there that, like, used to be a
Mhm.
demon or something. I don't know. So,
Definitely.
like like a reformed demon to kinda, like,
I
show
just
you
have
the ropes.
I just have, like, an image of, like, a split screen in the docuseries of, like, the demon talking head being like,
His face is
"Yeah,
blurred
back
for
in my
privacy.
day." Yeah, yeah. He's like,
Done
"And
some
then I
dark shit.
realized it was my own demons that were holding me back."
Oh my god. Oh, that's merch. That's merch. What was that? I'm looking it up. Demon Cartoon Devil show. What was that
K-pop demon
show?
hunter.
No, 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 no. No, 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 no. It was like early 2000s. Oh my god.
Describe it to me.
Little show, uh, young boy besties with the devil? Question mark? No, not Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Mm-mm.
Leo and Satan.
I don't know this. I've never
Leo
watched
and
this.
Satan.
Oh,
Yes,
fun. Okay.
Leo and
Is it early
Satan.
2000s show?
Let's see. Da, 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 da. It 11. 15 years ago, it ended.
Okay.
So but it was fun. Like, I don't know. I remember it being funny. Here's some stills from it. Um, but it was
I've
basically like
never seen it before.
he was just besties with the devil, and it was sort of like the
Oh,
devil
that's
trying
really
not to like kill him
funny.
at all times. It was I don't know, it was silly, but that's what it reminds me of is him just sitting there like, yeah, listen, man, I'm really trying. Um, I love that.
Hmm.
So he goes through these little petite exorcisms with,
Petite.
entrepreneur over here, Ed Warren, and some
Yeah.
local priests. And Lorraine says that she witnesses David levitate. He stops breathing for a bit, and he even demonstrated clairvoyance, just like Clara. Well,
Whoa.
we went through the clairs. It probably wasn't clairvoyance, but he was able to predict things that were going to happen. Um,
Clairsentient.
yeah. Or would this be a clairvoyance and she was clairsentient because he didn't know things that already happened. He was predicting the future.
Clairsentient.
We need elevator music.
Clear feeling. I was wrong.
Clear feeling when you can predict the future.
Empathetic and like intuitive. So maybe it is clairvoyant. Believed to have psychic ability of clairvoyant, meaning they can perceive information beyond normal senses, seeing distant events through visions,
Okay.
dreams, or mental images, essentially seeing clearly without physical sight, often describes as sixth sense. So I guess seeing the future, perceiving the past, communication with spirits, clear seeing. So it has no like time frame. So yeah, clairvoyance would be
Correct in this
whether it would be in
case.
the past or the present future.
Okay. So in this case, clairvoyance was right.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things that he predicts is that Arnie is going to kill someone. So at this point, things are getting a little too hot, even for the Warrens.
Oh.
And I didn't really think about it when I was making these notes, but thinking about reading it now, I'm like, if they witnessed a young boy stop breathing, were they ever like, let's have a paramedic on standby at
That's
this
what I was
exorcism?
thinking. Like, at what point are you like, wait, this is
At what point
like
is it abuse of a child?
it's that you took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Yes, and I think about that with a lot of these, like, this is a
Yep.
child and we're exercising him and he's having seizures and he's having what seems to me like psychological breaks, and now we're gonna hold him down and
Mm-hmm.
scream at him and okay, but we're gonna move on from that.
So
S
traumatic.
yeah, so, in October, they call the Brookfield police to warn them that things in the house are getting dangerous.
So Ed and Lorraine leave. They stop doing the
Nope,
exorcism.
they're still there, but they're like, "I'm a little uncomfy," and
So are they hanging out with like? Are they at the? Are they like living with them temporarily?
they're not living there, I don't think,
They're just like coming and going often.
yeah, they're on
Okay.
site.
Okay.
And, of course, the police are like, "Hi, this isn't Ghostbusters. Don't call us ever again."
Who are you gonna call?
Um,
Not us.
not us. I don't know for sure that that's what they said, but I'm
Right.
assuming it's probably a safe bet. Rain also called the Brookfield police later, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Okay.
So something else happened during one of these petite exorcisms. Arnie, hating watching his girlfriend's brother suffer,
Understandably so.
told the demons essentially to take him instead.
Oh my god. Okay. Okay, martyr. Okay, martyr.
Uh-huh. He said, "Leave the kid alone. Take me." And Ed is quoted as saying, "It's just one of those things you never do. Not if you know anything about this sort of thing." But again, I would like to pause and say, I don't know if Ed really knows about this sort of thing
Literally he's saying it like a real yeah.
because he's an expert. But like,
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
But regardless, it did seem to work. So there's an
Uh-oh.
episode of A Haunting that covered this story, and it seems that only in this retelling is this piece mentioned. But apparently, after offering himself up to the demon, he's attacked, and the demon takes control of his car and makes him drive into a tree. He was unharmed. But still. Now, the version of this whole occurrence that is consistent across the board is that he returns to the rental property to examine an old well that was there that the family is now convinced housed the demon.
What?
This to me was confusing because I thought Arnie housed the demon, but
Right.
first David housed the demon. But I don't know if it's like visitation rights. But anyway, he says he sees the demon and he makes
At
eye
the well.
contact
At
with
the
it
well.
in the well.
In the
Timmy's in
well.
the well and the demon's in
And
the
the
well.
demon in the well.
And this is when he actually gets possessed, but like no one really knew it yet.
Oh my god. Okay.
Before we get into all of that, because I have more to say there, Is it worth discussing shared delusion at this point? That this whole family now is like, yes, I see a demon?
Absolutely, it's up for I mean, at what point do I have so many questions that we don't know the answers to, but when you first started talking about even just the choking, right? I was like, "Wait, okay, what were there multiple people seeing it happen? Was there one person seeing it
Two.
happen? Like, was it 2 okay, so 2 of them were seeing this choking happening. There's been a whole group at this point of people that sees these, as you say, Pete, exorcisms.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just yeah, at what point does it feel I can feel the momentum, right? It's like, okay, we're
Yeah.
all on the train and the train is getting faster and faster and faster. And there's going to be ultimately in any situation where momentum is building like this
There's some sort of
psychologically, there's
impact.
going to be the impact.
Well, I like that you say that because Judy had taken her son to a Bridgeport psychiatrist at one point who
Mhm.
charged her $75 an hour and announced I found this to be important. He announced that he really wanted to see the whole family the next time. Again, that made me go, I bet he did." You
Mhm.
know? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
I would also wanna
Yeah.
I might be discounting for that, to be like,
Right.
"Hey, guys, why don't we all get in a room and talk about some stuff? Because 'Cause I'm a little suspicious, again, of, like, is this child abuse and exploitation at this point?
And to
Because this
think
feels
about
like, let me meet my heroes, the Warrens. Look at my child. Look how."
I was literally about to for moms and again, like we say every time, and just to be clear, just like I was saying this about earlier about women being predators. I'm not saying that this is what's happening, but it is making me ask these questions.
Yes.
If mom was already interested in that stuff, is that not in and of itself enough intrinsic motivation for it to then become more manifested to then for it to become more of a bigger like, look, now we're experiencing this thing that I'm so infatuated with.
Yeah, right. So, she also said that, like we talked about a minute ago, it was up to the church to arrange psychological testing that would satisfy the requirements for an official rite of exorcism, and
Mhm.
she said I would like to know your thoughts here. She said, "They just wanna stick needles into her kid, and there's no way in hell they're going to do that."
Who wants to stick needles into her kid?
Well, she's saying that the psychological testing would require, just, like, sticking needles into my kid, and there's no way in hell they're going to do that. I'm so sorry. Um, I'm a parent, and I think I would much rather some needles be in my child, if that's actually on the table,
Also,
than for my child to be held down by men and screamed at
for
over and over again
prolonged periods of time, multiple times,
while convulsing and not breathing.
and no medical attention.
Hello?
Okay, wait, what alright, I don't know at what
Red flag. Red flag.
I don't know what kind of assessment or testing or involvement would require there to be needles stuck into a child in the first place. Like, that doesn't even make any
Unless they wanna
sense.
do some blood work, but
And
it's
that's
like,
so rudimentary. Like, yeah, blood work is like normal. It's not sticking needles to your child. It's you're gonna take his blood for 15 seconds. Like
yeah,
that's also I
I don't know.
uh, okay.
Yeah. Strangely, Debbie and Arnie decide, "You know what? We need to move out of this evil house." Not
Yeah, about time. Damn.
well, David's still there. Not because Arnie is getting worse, but because David is. They're like, things are really going worse for him. We gotta get out of here." And I read that, and I'm not sure if that was a typo in what I read, and they meant, things are getting worse for Arnie, and so he needed to leave, but, listen, what I read was Debbie and Arnie decide to move out of the house because Arnie is getting worse. So that seemed a little,
Mhm.
"Ooh," to me.
Yeah.
Now, I did answer my earlier question of how can it live in the well and in the boy
Yeah.
and in Arnie? Apparently, David was not possessed by a single demon. In fact, the number was 43 demons and 2 devils.
Says who?
Them. And this was up from 42 demons and 1 devil when the possession first began.
Okay. All right. What do you mean 2
This sounds like a
devils?
housing crisis in hell. That is too many living in one place.
We need to talk to whoever's responsible for the
Yeah.
districting and
Some scum lords. But, um
the a demonic slumlord is such a funny concept.
That's the other thing that the devil's talking about in his interview. He's like, I just knew I had to make a change. I couldn't live there anymore under under such terrible conditions. But I also, that was something that I need to do maybe for another episode or something, is like, what's the demonic hierarchy? Devils versus
Ooh,
demons.
that's a really great question. We did kind of touch on this a little bit in one episode. I can't really remember,
Oh,
like the
yeah, when
devil
we were
versus like Satan,
Satan.
but we didn't get into like devils
Yeah,
versus
but what about under
demon.
him? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what's the
Yeah.
hierarchy there? Okay, so 42 demons.
That was when it first started and 1 devil, but now it's up to 43 demons and 2 devils. So I guess there's plenty to go around. If a couple of them are like, "It's a little crowded in here. I'm gonna go live in the well," and then a couple more are like, "I'm gonna go live in Arnie."
I
So
don't
it's
get.
contagious. They're jumping out, everyone's getting possessed. It's like it's like
You get a demon. You get a demon. You get a demon.
it's like that, but also, like, I don't know what would be the equivalent of, like, a face mask to prevent the spread of demons? I don't know. Think about that, everybody. Good luck. No vaccine for that.
And you know what's
So,
airborne? Demonic possession.
just you next time the person next to you sneezes, remember what's coming out of their nose is demons. That's why people say "bless you."
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know that,
yeah.
right?
I thought it was the heart stopping situation.
No. That
Wait.
used to be believed that, like, devils came out of the nose, so people would say "bless you."
What are you telling me? What are you telling me right now? What are you saying? I've never heard this before.
That's what I heard.
What?
Let me before I have another King James moment, let's see. Bless you because of demons in nose. The plague. It was something about the plague. Yeah, saying
Oh.
bless you after a sneeze comes from old superstitions that evil spirits or demons could enter or leave the body through the nose.
What? Wow.
Mhm.
New things.
You're
Okay. That's
welcome.
much better than I thought it was. Cool.
And there was another theory about the plague that people were like, "Oh, bless you, because you're probably gonna die."
That's what I was thinking. Or like it used to be what I heard is that it used to be suspected that your heart stopped when you sneezed.
Well, that's another one, but it was more about soul protection. So some thought that the soul
Ooh.
left during a sneeze and needed blessing to return, or that the heart briefly stopped, requiring a blessing to restart. Can
Oh,
you
can
imagine
you
like an
imagine?
ER doctor being like, "Clear, bless you." Did it work?
Or like
Bless
the
you.
can you imagine like being in public and sneezing and being like, "Someone, please help me.
Is there a priest
Help me,
here?
bless you.
Like
Someone's
when
in."
someone when something happens on a plane and they're like, "Is there a doctor on the plane?" Instead, someone sneezes. They're like, "Is there a priest on the plane? Hurry, this man needs prayer."
Wow.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
So
see
anyway,
see how easy it is to get caught up in a shared delusion? We could just keep going and then
we are all in a shared delusion. We all say bless you.
Mhm.
So, uh, so yeah, they can just hop around. There's plenty of them. So because Debbie and Arnie are like, this isn't like we're gonna leave. Debbie gets hired by a guy in Brookfield, Connecticut named Alan Bono, and she's gonna be grooming dogs. A hero, if you ask me. I just had
Yeah.
Radley groomed, and I just admire the patience and kindness of these people.
Yeah.
Well, because I know someone's gonna be like, well, there's a bunch of abusers that have been proven to. I'm not talking about them. Don't be dumb. I'm talking about people that are like dog
Actually do it for the
whisperers.
yeah.
Yeah, they're great. So, and she was wanting to be one of them.
Mhm.
They had met this guy, Alan, who was 40 at this point, a summer prior, and Bono didn't know the first thing about running kennels. Debbie says that if it wasn't for her, the dogs wouldn't have been fed or exercised or watered. Like he had not a clue. She even had to pull her family members in to help. Uh,
Uh,
yeah, all he did was sit around and drink. But it was his sister that actually owned the kennels, and he was living in Australia. And she was like, "Hey, can you actually come to Connecticut and like manage this place for a while? Because I got some stuff to do."
whoa. Okay.
Yeah. So even though he sounds kind of terrible, they did like him, and they even talked about owning a pet store together at some point.
Hmm.
Gentle reminder not to support pet stores. So,
Why not?
oh, because it's all like puppy mills and stuff.
Wait, I don't know this.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wait, can we do a little just a quick informational blip about this? What do you
Yeah.
mean?
Pet stores, like, where they actually get their dogs from, more often than not, are puppy mills, and you don't wanna support that, obviously. That's why if you ever go in and, like, really look at some of these puppies, they look a little ill. It's because they
Yeah.
are,
Oh
and they're
my
so
god.
astronomically expensive. So please rescue and adopt, and, please
Wow.
spay and neuter your pets,
Coming
and
from the foster queen herself.
Listen, um, so they're starting their new life surrounded by
Mhm.
dogs, and or at least they're trying to, right? But
Mhm.
Arnie starts exhibiting some really strange behavior, and it's got Debbie thinking, "Uh-oh, the demon's in him."
Mhm.
She's witnessing him fall into a trance-like state where he growls, but he doesn't remember any of these
Oh, your
episodes.
audio just went out,
I don't like
and
that.
you're
Is it
fuzzy
back?
now.
Is it back?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I don't know what you said.
Okay.
That's so funny.
I said that she's witnessing him fall into a trance-like state where he growls and hallucinates,
Hallucinates. That's
but
the
he
part that
doesn't remember any of these episodes.
Okay.
She also woke up one night to see Arnie just standing over her, just staring at her, like that scene from Paranormal
Ah!
Activity, and he just looks at her and he says, "Go to bed."
Ooh!
On another occasion, he gets up and he just hits an old trunk in their room and says, like, he mutters something about hell. She doesn't know what he says. And he also went with Debbie and her family to mass, but just, like, could not handle it, and he winds up saying, "Son of a bitch, I wanna get out of here,"
In
and
the
he,
middle
like,
of
leaves.
mass?
Yeah, and so he leaves.
I mean, I that part that's the most understandable thing I've heard so
I
far.
knew you were going to say I knew you were
You were
gonna be
laughing
like, "I
before I
mean."
even said it.
I was, 'cause I knew. I was waiting for you to be like, "Well, I'd probably have the same reaction." I'm over here like, "I don't mind mass, I like it, it's kinda creepy," like, and you're like, "Mm." So in February, things change. So February 16th, I think that's President's Day, Arnie calls in sick to the Wright Tree Service where he worked. He wasn't feeling very well. He had a little sore throat.
Tends to
And
happen when you're possessed,
oh,
I
you're
hear.
right? They're like, they're all in the throat. They're like, "We don't have any room." And he's like, "Ah, God, my throat really hurts." Debbie was heading to the kennels. She had a French poodle to attend to. And some local girls, this is a small town, like, it's just kinda everybody knows everybody, so Wanda is 15, Dennis is 13, her
Okay.
cousin Mary is 9, and they all wanted to watch. And isn't that, like, so typical? It's the '80s, what else are we gonna
What
do?
are we gonna do? Yeah,
Let's watch you shave a poodle, you know?
totally.
And Arnie joins them, so I guess he felt well enough to hang out with a bunch of healthy little girls,
Mhm.
and Alan Bono's there, and he sees that obviously there's, like, a group of people, so he's like, "Hey, let's all go to lunch, I'll buy you all lunch." And he does, and he's drinking a lot of red wine at lunch, which is, like, a crazy choice. And Arnie
Yeah.
and Debbie had a little wine, but Alan was really imbibing, and he's, I guess, kind of, like, joking and saying, like, "I'm gonna give up drinking next Saturday. Next Saturday, I'm gonna give up drinking."
Mhm.
Uh, so but to this point, like, it's been pretty dull, and when they get back, Arnie actually repairs Alan's stereo for him, but when he's done, Alan turns it up really, really loud, which
Okay.
that would have been enough for me to, like, lose my mind. I can't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
And it sounds like everyone got really overstimulated really fast. And Debbie kind of, I think, has this sixth sense of like, I don't like what's happening.
This
And
energy
he's
is
been
off.
drinking a lot. Yeah. And like something's off. I'm going to get the little girls out of here.
Yeah.
And so she's like, girls, come on. We're going to go get pizza.
Okay.
And so she takes them and they go and get pizza. But when they're eating, I don't think they'd been there very long. It sounds like by Wanda's account that Debbie gets a little frantic. Like she can sort of sense that something's happening. We need to go back. And so she kind of rushes the girls. She's like, hurry up. We need to go. So they finish and they go back to the kennels. And they get back, and Alan wants all of them to go upstairs to the apartment that he has. And he turns the TV on now very, very loud. And again, I would be so overwhelmed. I would be like screaming.
Mhm.
And he starts punching his fist into his hand over and over. And like both of these things together,
What?
I think actually something would have like exploded in my brain. That's too much stimuli.
Uh-huh.
Um, so the guy's drunk, right?
Yeah.
It's stressful as hell in here. It's very loud, and there are children. So once again, Debbie's like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
And she tells the girls, we're gonna go downstairs. But Alan manages to grab Mary and he won't let her go.
Oh my
And
god.
so Debbie goes to get him off the little girl, and he did let go at that point. But somehow, I guess they must have never actually gone upstairs like he wanted because Arnie's and at this point he had been walking back to his car and he somehow sees this going
Oh,
on.
Arnie's
So
not in there.
he's not in there, but he's on the property. He had been like
Okay.
leaving.
Okay.
And so he witnesses it. So they must have all been like on floor level. And so he goes in to like de-escalate things. So he demands that Alan let go of his girlfriend, and young Wanda recounts it as saying, quote, all of a sudden it just broke. That was how she explains what happens next. Because she says, which I think is her way of saying like everything happened at once.
Yeah.
Because the other children, except for her, ran for the car, and Debbie winds up between the two men, kind of like holding them off of each other.
Oh.
And Wanda was holding on to Arnie, trying to kind of like push him, but she said that she couldn't move him at all. She said he was like a stone. And she remembers hearing Arnie growl, and there was something shiny that kind of flashed in the air. And Debbie hears Arnie speak in two voices at the same time. And then everything stops and everything goes quiet. And Arnie turns around, looking straight ahead, and just walks into the woods. And Alan just stands there and he starts punching his fist into his palm again
Mhm.
until he just falls forward on his face.
What?
And that was when it was apparent that Arnie's 5-inch knife was lying near him, and Alan had been stabbed 5 times,
Oh my what?
including one wound that extended from the stomach to the base of his heart.
He's dead. He
So
died.
I think that was like the something shiny that flashed through the air must have been the
The
knife making an
knife.
appearance.
Right.
So I had to pay to read this WAPO article, good old Washington Post, that was actually written in 1981 by
Oh,
Lynn
wow.
Darling. Yeah, super worth it. It was like $2. Lynn's a great writer because she describes Ed and Lorraine as coming across as the Ozzie and Harriet of the investigators into the supernatural, which I thought was pretty clever.
Interesting.
She also says the Warrens' role in the Glatzel-Johnson demon drama seems to lie somewhere between her affable den mother and his impresario to the occult. And I would agree because they really kind of swarm around this murder. And do you remember that I told you that Lorraine would call the police again?
Yes.
It was the following day after the murder because she needed to let the police know that Arnie was possessed. As you can imagine, the media is in a frenzy. It's a total blitz, it's international.
Mhm.
Martin Minella, Johnson's lawyer, gets calls from all over the world. And at one point, he actually goes to England to meet with lawyers that were involved in two similar cases that never went to trial.
Mhm.
We'll have to try to find those for another
Mhm.
episode. So he's like building this whole case, right? And he plans to bring in exorcism specialists from Europe, and he even kind of threatens to subpoena the priests that oversaw these small exorcisms if they didn't cooperate with the defense. The defense being he was possessed, he didn't want to, mean to, intend to kill this man. The
Yes.
devil made him do it.
Yeah.
Or at least 43 devils, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the presiding judge, Robert Callahan, hears Manella's attempt to submit a plea of not guilty by virtue of possession. That was really what they submitted. And he immediately rejects it. He rejects it. He says no defense could ever exist in a court of law due to lack of evidence that it would be irrelative and unscientific. But of course, the jury all knew the rumors. How could you not? Again, this was a huge ordeal,
Right.
but they were not legally allowed to consider demonic possession as a viable explanation and instead had to take the plea that it was self-defense.
Interesting.
So the jury deliberated for 15 hours over 3 days before finally convicting Arnie of first-degree manslaughter.
Oh, ooh, okay. Wow, he really lucked out on that.
Well, he was sentenced to 10 to 20 years, but
Yeah.
served 1 month short of 5.
Yeah.
As
Any
a
manslaughter
reminder,
charge is you're gonna get way less.
yeah. Well, and as a reminder, manslaughter is a criminal homicide,
Mhm.
but it's treated less severe than murder because it's basically like, I didn't go there planning to do
There's
this.
no premeditation.
Yeah, I just like, oops, killed someone, right? Like,
Mhm. Like, that's like vehicular manslaughter when you accidentally, like, run
correct.
someone over or
Somebody did
something.
die, but I
Yeah.
wasn't
And you were
trying to do that.
negligent, but you didn't intentionally mow them over.
Right. So this would be the very first court case in the US that was out to blame demonic possession over guilt. And obviously, like I said at the top, if it had worked, it would have totally changed the legal system.
Mm.
But something that I think is interesting that I do think is worth just noting is that this is a court system where you do place your hand on a Bible and swear to tell the truth because I mean, the assumption being that you wouldn't lie to God,
Mm.
right? But we cannot blame the devil for a crime. And of course, listen, I understand that this is like a "Ooh" kind of thing because and then you go back to the witch trials, right? And it's like, well,
Mhm.
that's where they were going. The pendulum swung too far. And now we're
Right.
saying, like, yes, you've made a covenant with the devil. And because of that, we have to kill you. And so I'm not saying, like, I wish this would have worked. Definitely not. But I am saying it's interesting.
Yes, you're bringing up a really good point because how can you it's contradicting is what you're pointing out.
Yeah.
Is that if you're going to it's the same it's like the in good faith, right?
Yes.
It's like we're
Yes.
operating from a space of you're swearing on the Bible.
Yeah, we're gonna promise not to lie to God. Yeah, but, um, even when the case was over, Lorraine defended her work with the family and continued to preach that he was possessed. And she even
Mhm.
says that the 6 priests who were involved agreed that the boy was possessed and that everything she claimed happened was real. As a note, no verification of this claim was provided.
Mhm.
But something else that I think is worth considering is, at least with David, the occurrences, the events seemed so nonstop,
Yeah.
and then with Arnie, it seemed a little bit more, like, sporadic
Almost like evoked too. It's like, okay, well, this is evoked from you at this time.
because you would think that he should have been having fits or something in court.
Yeah, consistently all the time. Correct.
I mean, unless I don't know. This is one of those things where this is more of like a high idea. I feel like we need to do something before this episode because it's like, well, unless you do believe that there were demons and stuff inside him, in which case they would want to torture him because then they would be like, no, we're not here. You're going to be totally fine and acting only under your own authority.
Right.
And, then when it doesn't serve him to prove that he's possessed, then they would act out. So I can go a lot of ways into this and break my brain over it, but this is what happened. And
Mhm.
something else that was in this Washington Post article that was written when the year that this actually happened was that when she was talking to Lorraine, she said, this is a quote, "Will we have a book written about this?" Lorraine Warren asks rhetorically. "Yes, we will." "Will we lecture about it?" "Yes, we will." "Are they talking to writers and movie producers?" "No, we're not," she says. "Our agents at the William Morris Agency are." So again, you get into this like, who are we exploiting? When is it exploitation? When is it your story to tell because you were involved? And there's a lot to this. So at the time, Arnie and Debbie still supported the Warrens' account of possession and have stated that any litigants were suing for money. However, in 2007, David Glatzel and his brother sued Lorraine Warren and
What?
Gerald Brittle, the author of a book about the case, over the claim that David had been possessed at all. He says, "My brother was never possessed. He, along with my family, was manipulated and exploited, something the Warrens were very good at. And along with their author, Gerald Brittle, they concocted a phony story about demons in an attempt to get rich and famous at our expense, and we have the evidence to prove it."
Shit.
Mhm. And let's talk more about some other writers of the Warrens because there was a book ghost written for the Warrens in 1992. Author Ray Garton collaborated with Ed and Lorraine Warren to publish In a Dark Place, the story of a true haunting, which
Mhm.
introduced the world to the experiences of the Snedeker family. Ray Garton, the primary author of In a Dark Place, says that, quote, "The actual truth is that the whole thing was concocted to cash in on a book and a possible movie." He also described the difficulties he faced when working with the Snedeker family. He says the family involved, which was going through some serious problems like alcoholism and drug addiction, could not keep their story straight, and I became very frustrated. It's hard writing a nonfiction book when all the people involved are telling you different stories. Additionally, Garton never saw any evidence relating to the case. When he pressed Ed about the lack of resources necessary for writing a whole book, Ed encouraged the author to fill in any holes in the story as he saw fit. He said, quote, "When I went to Ed, he said, use what you can and make the rest up. You write scary books, right? That's why we hired you. So just use what you can, make the rest up, and make it scary."
What?
Garten says he pressed on with the book because he had already signed the contract and could not afford to get out of the contract. But these days, Garten has distanced himself from the project, considering the mostly fabricated story to be a stain on his own writing career, no matter its commercial success. But we're not done
Oh,
yet.
wow. Okay, okay,
We've
okay.
got more controversies to talk about because the
Can I
new
ask you
yeah,
before we move on, what do you think about this?
I think and I feel annoying because I feel like we say this in most all the episodes lately, but I really do think 2 things can be true.
Yeah,
I think
I
that they
agree.
can be total scam artists, but
Totally.
I think that out of 10,000 cases, yeah, they probably did see some stuff. You know what I mean? It's like let's go back to Ghost Adventures, right? And how it's
Mhm.
just so fake and silly and, Zach's just possessed every 5 minutes. It's all silly. But there are some things in the show that I'm like, "Okay, but that actually was like that was interesting." You know what I
Mhm,
mean?
mhm,
It's
mhm.
very rare. I think maybe it's like 29 seasons, it's happened twice where I'm
Yeah.
watching it and I'm like, "Oh." But still, it's like he can be fraudulent and also
Mhm.
believe that some of what he's doing is real.
Yeah.
The Warrens can be fraudulent, but also believe that they're not. Or that,
Mhm.
well, some of this isn't true, but, it gets us exposure and then we can help people that really are haunted or what, like it's
It feels so much more likely for it to be clunky like that and for it to be both. I mean, that's with most things. You zoom in, right? And it's like, well, like any other group that's exploited, at some point, the person who's guiding them or whatever, at some point or another, it's like, okay, there is truth in what you're saying, and that's how things continue. Is that like there is a little sprinkle of truth here, or there's a validation there, or there's something,
right.
there's like this conduit that keeps the motivation going or whatever. And whether it's like, oh, you're a part of it and you see it and that's the validation, it keeps going, or even from an external, it's like proof. There's just so many different ways to.
Well, and I think, it's one of those things where I really do believe he was passionate about the supernatural and the
Right,
occult.
right,
And I think, it's proof that he was like, "Okay, how can I get into your house? Here, I took time and effort and made a painting
right.
of your home and like, can I please investigate it now in exchange for this painting?"
Do we have Oh, wait, no, go ahead, finish your sentence.
No, I was just gonna say, and so I think that all of that really was like pure and sincere interest. And I think
Mhm.
that with interest, I don't think he set out to be some scam artist,
Right.
especially because I don't believe that he um charged people.
Mm,
I think that they made most of their money through like lectures and the book projects and movie deals and that sort of thing.
mhm.
So, but again, it's like you have to have one to have the other.
Right.
You have to kind of exploit it in order
Mhm,
to get the press and the articles
mhm.
and, "Oh, you want an interview? It'll be $1,000,"
Right.
whatever.
Mhm.
So, I think it's very complicated, but I do believe
Yeah.
that it makes total sense for someone to look back and go, "I think I was convinced by these people that something was
Mhm.
happening to me, when in fact I probably should have been seeing a professional instead of an occultist."
Do we know first of all, I mean, we've talked about this before of, like, that's the easiest time to be convinced of something is whenever you're already in a psychologically destabilized state,
Yeah.
obviously. You're vulnerable. You want things to make sense. You want something to have something more solid that you can predict or, right, that you can name.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious if we kind of put a pin in this earlier of Lorraine's like her journey into being a medium. Do we know any more about like when it started happening or when she
Ye
became like a
It
medium
all
or she
developed while with Ed, so it was very much
right
like she sort of started discovering these abilities,
as she was
and
going.
so by the time they started really taking on cases was when it was like,
Mhm.
"Wow, she has this amazing gift," and so with Ed's knowledge of the demonic
Mhm.
world and occult and her ability, her sixth sense and this ability to kind of see, through the veil, right?
Mhm.
Together, we can really help people. But
Yeah.
yes, it wasn't something that like from the time I was 3, I saw dead people. It was not like
Right.
that at all. It
Right.
was like, "Oh, sure, yeah, I think I did have a vision," that kind of
Can
thing.
develop this, which I'm like, again, I'm like, okay, just to your point is like, I mean, maybe people can develop these skills over time whenever
Yeah,
you
I don't
nurture it.
necessarily think that that's a red flag at all, but I
Mhm.
do think it's convenient
Mhm.
I think it's fair to say that. I'm not saying I think it wasn't real,
Right.
but I do think that the timing is it warrants raising an eyebrow. So, the New England Skeptical Society, founded in January 1996 by Stephen Novella and Perry DeAngelis and Bob Novella, really did not like the Warrens. And they investigated them a couple times, saying that all their evidence lacked empirical evidence and it was just a hogwash, like all the
Stealing
way around.
Houdini.
Yes, very much. Yes.
Mhm.
And one of the more in-depth investigations conducted by members of NES, investigators Stephen Novella and Joe Nickel, via DeAngelis's collaboration, were initially told that they would actually be able to observe one of the Warrens' investigations firsthand, but then access never materialized. And according to Ness, the repeated refusals really suggested that the Warrens were more concerned with like safeguarding their image than engaging in genuine scientific scrutiny.
Mhm.
And so,
'Kay.
when questioned about the absence of rigorous evidence, Ed argued that spiritual phenomena could not be proven through scientific methods, which is funny because, again, even my boy Zach, right? Like, he's
Mhm.
got, again, oh, are they scientific devices? No, but he wants them to be, right? Like,
Right.
the goal is to figure out how to prove it scientifically.
Right.
And so it is kind of funny that Ed wouldn't be like, well, sure, you can come, but it's not going to change my mind that what we're doing is real, you know? So it is very
Mhm.
much like, uh, okay. In summarizing the findings, Novella noted that the Warrens really seemed to be searching for anything unusual or unexplained and treating anomalies as proof of paranormal activity without applying any sort of controls to these experiments, right?
Right.
So the same skeptical investigation later informed a newspaper analysis examining the real life accuracy of The Conjuring. While the investigators found the Warrens to be kind and sincere, they reported that no convincing or verifiable evidence was ever produced to support the extraordinary claims portrayed.
Mhm.
But that leads me to the most recent controversy because at this point,
Oh, I already forgot about that. Okay.
regardless, they're making a name for themselves, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they and it is one that they try to ensure stays very wholesome and Christian forward. You know, like
Who?
God
Who wants to
the
be Christian
Warrens.
forward?
The
What?
Warrens are very like, God is at the center of this,
What?
we work for him. Oh, yeah.
How did I not know that? What do
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
mean? Wait
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
second.
Big time
What?
Christians. Yeah, yeah.
What?
Mhm.
No, you're freaking lying. Are you
No, of course not.
serious?
I mean, think about, like, how much they want to involve the church. It's because they believe that God can fight evil.
What kind of Christians are they?
Crusaders.
That was the name of my high school mascot is the Crusader.
I didn't realize that I wrote in my next line, very much crusaders against the devils and his demons. So, and it's enough of a name now that they have more recognition than ever, especially with the movies that are coming out, right? They have a whole universe. But the real controversy would come in 2014 when a woman named Judith Penny popped up, claiming that she and Ed got together when Ed was in his mid 30s and she was 15.
Okay.
Okay. So
How old was say that one more again?
Ed was in his mid-30s and she was 15. In 2017, The Hollywood Reporter received legal filings and recordings that allegedly revealed a horrifying truth about the Warrens amidst a sprawling legal battle over the billion-dollar Conjuring franchise. To note, Ed died in 2006. So
Oh.
he's gone. And Lorraine Warren would soon die in 2019. So just a couple years after these allegations came to light.
Mhm.
So Penny did not come forward publicly until she was in her 70s, at which point she claimed she had lived in Ed and Lorraine Warren's Connecticut home for nearly 40 years.
What?
Her allegations outline a series of very serious issues that Ed Warren, in his mid 30s, began a sexual relationship with her when she was 15, and that Lorraine was totally aware of it. That Penny resided with the Warrens for decades, that she became pregnant by Ed Warren, that Lorraine pressured her to terminate that pregnancy, and later encouraged her to falsely claim that she had been insulted by an intruder, and that Ed was at times physically abusive toward Lorraine. According to Penny, she moved in with the Warrens while Ed was still employed as a city bus driver in Monroe, Connecticut. She said that she initially stayed in a bedroom near theirs and later lived in an apartment above the couple as she got older. In 1963, police became involved after receiving a report concerning Penny and Ed Warren. During the incident, authorities attempted to get Penny to sign a statement acknowledging the relationship, but she refused, and she was required to report to a juvenile delinquency office for a month. A
So this
process
is this is all this is
allegedly,
do
but
we
we haven't really seen proof.
okay.
This is all like within the filing is saying that like this happened, this event took place, and this is a process that Penny stated Ed Warren personally facilitated by driving her there. She
What?
said, quote, "They wanted me to tell everyone that someone had come into my apartment and raped me, and I wouldn't do that. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, but I had an abortion. The night they picked me up from the hospital after having it, they went out and lectured and left me all alone."
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay.
But
Okay.
her abuse allegations went even further than her relationship with Ed Warren. Because according to her, Ed was abusive and cruel, and one time backhanded Lorraine so hard that she actually lost consciousness. She said sometimes Ed would actually have to slap her across the face to shut her up. Penny said, "Some nights I thought they were going to kill each other."
Oh my god.
Okay, so here's my big disclaimer. I am all for believing victims. I want to make that crystal clear. But we can all agree that it's fair to recognize that the timing sucks. She's 70, Ed is dead, Lorraine is ill, the family is coming into insane money with the Conjuring movie that came out in 2013. Now it's 2017.
Okay.
But, because before anyone's like, well, sometimes it takes a long time. I know that.
There's also
But just
statute of limitations. So how in the world could she
or right, yeah, there's a lot to
right.
consider here.
Right.
But here's where I will say something interesting is that in one of the books about the Warrens from 1980, probably one of the ones that I mentioned earlier, Penny is mentioned by name. All of this, coupled with Penny's allegations of abuse, deconstructs Ed and Lorraine Warrens' image
Mhm.
because, again, seemingly this is all supported because in Gerald Brittle's 1980 book, The Demonologist, a biography about the Warrens, yes, he was like the first author that I mentioned, makes mentions of Penny's presence in their home. So it says, quote, Pete telephoned the Warrens and spoke with Judy Penny, a young woman who works as a liaison when Ed and Lorraine are out of town. Judy has heard some hair raising tales over the phone, but this one in particular scared her. The Warrens are out west, she told Pete Beckford, but I'll relay the message to them. So this account relates to a 1974 incident involving Peter Beckford, who was speaking with Penny on the phone. Beckford claimed that his 19-year-old daughter had summoned a demonic presence into their home using a Ouija board. He had reportedly been directed to contact the Warrens for help, which is why Penny handled the call on their behalf. So there is documented proof that Penny did at least know the Warrens and
Yeah.
work for them
It
at
was
some time.
closely connected to them if she's answering their phone.
Correct. Now, her role in the Warrens household was described inconsistently over the years because at
Mhm.
times she was framed as an assistant or an intermediary, like I just said, who kind of help with their work. And in other instances, she was referred to as a niece or portrayed as a disadvantaged young woman the couple had taken in out of kindness. According to Penny, these shifting explanations avoided addressing the true, alleged, reason that she was so closely involved in their lives. She later said she genuinely believed that she loved Ed for many years, only reevaluating that belief later in life, which is again why
Sure.
it took so long to come forward.
Right.
She said, as I'm older now, I can't even fathom why Lorraine let me stay there. Lots of times I think about, why did I do this? Why did I screw up my life like this?
Cuz you're a child.
Yeah, sometimes I get angry thinking about it, how so much was taken away from me.
Mhm.
But in trying to kind of like deep dive this and figure out where the evidence is and where the truth is,
Mhm.
it's really hard to figure out where some of this information came from outside of multiple articles sort of like echo chambering themselves.
Mhm.
I also saw that allegedly the allegations were actually brought forward by a producer, DeRosa Grund, who was suing WB over profits from The Conjuring and not the victim herself. So the claim here is that Judith Penny may have come forward to someone and said this, but she isn't filing anything. A
Wow.
producer is doing it. So
Wow.
that also changes the story. So it seems that she did live with them, but because they took her in off the street when she was 16, I don't know with that. I don't know. So witnesses have said they never saw anything inappropriate. Lorraine outright just denied that it happened. Anything happened. And
Mhm.
apparently it was the studio, like I said, that tried to file something as opposed to Penny. So where I land is it's a pretty shocking allegation.
Yeah.
There are pieces of it that make me think like, uh-oh, it seems that they did help her for some time when she was 16, but anything else is just a big question mark, and because she's not coming forward herself to say things, it's all secondhand. It's really hard to know what to do with it, but it is worth noting, and so that is pretty much the biography of the Warrens and the trial of Arnie and the murder of Alan Bono,
Wow.
um, and that's it. There you go.
Wow. I always am so when there is never a clear picture painted of something, that makes me
Yeah.
it automatically to me says, okay, something.
What are we missing?
Yeah, if there's not a clear picture painted and there's either contradiction or there's clunkiness or messiness to it, it's like there's a reason why this is confusing and it's by design.
Yeah.
And something, whatever it may be, we'll probably never know,
Yeah.
but something wasn't
On the up and
right.
up. Yeah. I agree. I think and again, I know this may have been like, I don't know, drinking from the water hose because there was so much to this, but it seemed like
Mhm.
it all made a lot of sense together instead of separately
Yeah,
because it is, I think, a really
definitely.
solid look at both sides of like, here's everything that they worked really hard to build, but then here's also the
Mhm.
side of it that's like, ugh, I don't know if we should really be like cheering for some of that. And then
Mhm.
also sort of the other voices that are usually kind of washed out by all their supporters to be
Right.
like, oh, yeah, actually, they hired me to write a book and it's literally all made up. Like, oh, what? Okay, that's important to say out loud, right? So
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know. There's a lot to it, but I think what sticks out to me the most is the fact that a literal murderer is willing to come out now because there is no statute of limitations on murder. I mean, he
Right.
can't be it's double jeopardy, he can't be tried again, but I
Mhm.
think for him to come out and say like, "I was not possessed, my brother was not
Yeah.
possessed," that I think that to me says a lot too.
I mean, that's just so of course, I have my own. This is feeling very reminiscent of the other moments and times in my life where I have learned more about something and then been in that
Yeah.
space of like, "Oh, that's so taints everything that I
Yeah.
wanted to enjoy from this," or it right? But that feeling of wanting to stay on the other side of the wall and not look through and to see the
Yeah.
full picture is like and this is I'm obviously applying this to bigger, greater not bigger, greater, but like to this is a blanket statement here, is that
Yes.
I'm recognizing in myself that that's a little bit of talk about red flag of like, oh, this is kind of like a chosen ignorance because I don't want it to ruin the thing that I do you know what I'm saying? Like I
Yes, this
don't
is the
want it
thing
to
that
ruin
I
it.
that I have
Mhm.
always felt and expressed, and it's a part of my personality in these some aspects,
Yeah.
and now it's like, "Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay. If I can't support that anymore, what's the trickle down of that?" Right? Like,
Yeah.
what else now is, like, ruined for me? Or what and again, it's not just about us and our beliefs and how it
Mm-mm.
impacts us, but it is very much this idea of, "Oh, uh-oh,
Why
if
don't
these
I
were
wanna look at
terrible people or if these were
yeah.
abusers, we probably shouldn't be supporting their
Mhm.
movies or their books or their
Sure.
literature." But then it's also like, but if that's not true, then I still can, right? Because if I'm just looking at this with the assumption of maybe they were fraudulent, well, that's okay. But I think the bigger piece and that I would like to leave everybody
Yeah.
with, I don't think we even need to like talk about it. It's more just a little, let me roll this marble out.
Mhm.
If we are to believe
Yeah.
that they were not possessed. And even if you're someone that was like, "Well, obviously, because I don't believe in that." I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people that believe that there was a chance. Then you have to accept that essentially what I just did was tell you a large story about abuse by an
Abuse.
entire family,
Yes.
and that really changes the tone.
It changes everything.
Yeah, and now granted, you could say that about any possession case, right? About
Mhm.
any
Mhm.
exorcism, especially if you are someone that's like, "Demons aren't real. That doesn't exist. So, of course, that wasn't what was happening." It's not that, it's again, like, yes, you could, and that's enough, and you can just stop the whole opinion there,
Mhm.
but as someone who does think that that could be a very real thing,
Mhm.
it's one thing to sort of watch a petite exorcism, right? Of like, wow, that
Mhm.
person's throwing up. Either that was real or they were just like very psychologically encouraged, right? Of I'm gonna expel demons. That's one level of this scale, right? That's like
Yeah.
one piece. But then the further you go down this spectrum, it's like, and now this is really scary.
Yeah.
and not like, "Oh, wow, this adult in full authority,
Yeah.
threw up in a bucket." Instead, it's like this little boy
Mhm.
is having very, very upsetting symptoms,
Mhm.
violent outrages, and is just being told, like, "This isn't you." And that was something else I read was that, Lorraine Warren would take phone calls from people that, thought that they were under the influence of something really evil, and she would tell them, and I think this is dangerous, you tell me, but she would basically tell them, like, "It's so important that you remember that these are not your thoughts. This is not what you want to do. You're being encouraged or you're being, what's the word I'm looking
Influence.
for? Like, influenced, yeah, by something else." And I am like, "Okay, again, from an occult aspect, I understand what you're telling a person, but if this person is actually just having a break of some sort, it
Mhm.
seems like maybe we shouldn't tell them that your thoughts aren't your own."
Mhm.
But I don't know.
Feeling I'm I'm feeling like so feeling a lot of things. Um, this overall sensation of this is such a feeling, and I'm gonna try to put it into words. I have never experienced a collective group of people protecting one or multiple people
Yeah.
where it's not abuse. Do you get what I'm saying? And
Yes.
I'm not saying that that inherently means that that is what we're talking about, but I'm recognizing in real time that so much of the sensation and the feeling I have, and I've talked about, like an underdeveloped ego, people call it narcissism. And I don't know if I've said it on here or not before, but this concept that my therapist, the way that she worded it, I loved it, where she said that people like that, and like the dark triad, I'm thinking about
Yeah.
that too, of and maybe not necessarily the dark triad has less charisma and less there really aren't very many they're not, like, societally accepted because they drop off with the not being social parts of it, or, like, the antisocial part of it, but anyway, my point being is that people who have a little bit of the dark triad, who are still societally upheld, they have a legion around them, and I'm recognizing this feels like that. I'm not saying that's what it
Mhm.
is, but it is up for like this. I'm just curious because the way that I make sense of it right now is that I want people to hold me accountable. I want there
Mhm.
to be questions about my actions. I'm always considering if the decisions I'm making are ethical or not. And for all the people around me to fully support me no matter what I do is not where I wanna be.
That's not necessarily support.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite literally the
Enablement. Yeah.
enabling, it's that sensation of a legion where it's
Yeah.
like, it encourages that almost, like, godlike complex of
Well, you
that
know who
I
I'm
can
thinking
do no
about?
wrong.
I'm thinking about my girl Teal.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's scary too. There should be questions. There should be, a level of skepticism. That you should be skeptical about things,
yeah.
and so, kind of the lack of the curiosity or the lack of culpability or accountability or whatever we wanna call it, already kind of lends itself, I'm recognizing in real time, to be more icky than not.
Yeah.
And I'm just recognizing that. I don't know what that and of course we're not gonna have answers like most often like many things we talk about on here, but I wanna recognize that sensation that I'm having in real
Mhm.
time of, "Oh, but there is this, like, inherent, oh, like,
Yes.
thing happening," right?
And again, like I said, there very much is a camp that's like the Warrens can do no wrong.
Yeah.
They're incredible. They've changed
Mhm.
the whole landscape for the supernatural, and it's like, that's fine, but you can also say they changed the whole landscape for the supernatural, which is something that I'm really passionate about, but they did a lot of questionable things that I don't fully support.
Correct.
You can say that. It
You
doesn't have
can
to be
say that.
carte blanche,
Mhm.
but anyway,
Wow,
that's
this was
what we'll leave you with.
really this was really good. Yeah.
Thanks.
Wow. Oh, boy. Cool.
All right, everyone.
See
Well,
you
tell
next
us your
time.
comments. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm this feels like it sparks a lot of conversation, and I really like that. So,
Yeah. And don't forget to tell us the name of your horse.
oh yeah, what's the name of your horse? I'll think about mine. We'll talk about it
Yeah,
next time.
I can't wait. All right.
Cool.
All right, everyone. Clip
Bye.
clop. Bye.
Clip clop, bitches.